never been planning for universal and sustainable access, so this is something new. Considering the level of complexity, 1 year could be very short for getting a plan and a vision clear for over the coming 15 years. But at the same time, if we spend too long time getting clarity, when will we start implementing?
The theory of change we talked about today, I think, for me personally, provides a good way of looking at the key components that need to be in place for to be able to describe, particularly at the district level.
I think the overall sector needs to move in the direction of doing more than just delivering services and training of communities who clearly struggle to manage services on their own without the higher level institutional support that requires some level of system strengthening to get in place, I think, and higher level working with national governments in a concerted, joined up way that isn't fragmented and just based on short-term funding cycles of 3 to 5 years, because let's be realistic, within that time space it's very difficult to see any kind of major change.
The Hilton Partners meeting, I think for me, has been a good opportunity to, one, take stock of more or less the similar discussions we had last year when we also had the Hilton Partners meeting, still in Stockholm. But I think this particular one has gone a step further to enable us look more into the country-specific operations, but looking into those specific aspects that are either preventing us from actually causing the kind of changes that we want to see in place. Challenges, for example, related to a new lot of politicians that were recently elected. For me, this meeting has enabled me to think through, but also formulate probably the most appropriate messages that I can take back to my sub-county, to my district, and to my director in the ministry.
What I really like about the Hilton Foundation, working with them, is how they're very much a partner in the process. They want their grantees to succeed, and they set them up to succeed. They add value, and they don't not just work. And so all of those are really terrific contributions. The idea, around many of the district level approaches that we're looking at, and how to get district-wide coverage and ongoing support for it, something that becomes systemic and not dependent on a given champion in the government, because we know they're going to leave, requires the buy-in of the government. It's their full endorsement, their resources behind it. But I think the real challenge around it is understanding the incentives of the government and how what we do contributes to their incentives. But what I would like to see in a year from now is to have government representation here. I think what is a shortfall in the participants of this is we're all NGOs essentially talking to each other about government and about the role they play, whereas we need to make space for them.
I think where we can come in working on the theory of change and the district-based approach is to work with our financial institution partners to find ways to offer that type of lending within the districts that are the focus, right? And to help bring in the private financing so that there's less of a need for government or donor funding, because that's a huge issue.
I'm really excited to see what we can do when we look at the whole system and not just the water points and the communities, and see what kind of difference that might make.
There's broad consensus that the master planning process is critically important for building the kind of partnership that you need to drive the system's change forward. A master plan is a necessary but not sufficient component of this broad process, right? The elements of developing the master plan, I think we need to dig into a little bit more. The Hilton Foundation and its partners want to coordinate their activities in certain focal districts to demonstrate that you can get more synergy, more cost-effective use of funds, and better impact with respect to long-term sustainability if you focus on both the more and less visible aspects of the service delivery system. I think the challenge for the MEL partners is to understand specifically in what ways does that process lead to a strengthened partnership or strengthened systems. And that is hard to measure, but just because something's hard to measure doesn't mean we don't measure it.
The thing that struck a chord with me anyway was the idea that we need to be able to measure change. And so there's got to be a starting point, and then there's got to be ongoing points at which you're actually determining whether things have changed.
Some of the discussions we've been having today around monitoring and evaluation and what does that look like and how do we monitor systems change or system strength has been really interesting, and I think will have a big influence on what we're doing then going forward in Ethiopia.
Culturally, the time that they get to socialize is when they walk out of the home to the riverside to fetch water. So nice, we bring water on premise, but then how do we also make amends for the social dynamics that may be lost? There's something that we call the system. And when we talk about the system not allowing something to happen, we don't mean the technical systems, because the rules, the policies, the guidelines, everything is in place. But the question is, why are we not making much progress in implementation of these rules, the policies that have been outlined? It is because there's less attention paid to what is beneath it. We cannot see improvement in systems, we can't make that shift without addressing the fundamental issues of behaviors and the mindsets of the people that drives the action. The actors are not only the politicians. In our country, the actors are many. We have the political leadership, we have the technocrats, we have our development partners with different agendas. We have not paid attention to the soft side of what it takes to operationalize these systems and the structures that we have in place. And what it takes to operationalize them are the actors.
Issues of the district or the context at the district level might need some more time to be well understood. That we talk about a systems approach to achieving sustainable access to water and sanitation for all by 2030. You need to understand where the districts and the people are, what do they see as a system and what they are dealing with on a day-to-day basis.
And therefore, a holistic approach to addressing the issues of the systems beyond just the technical tools and methods, to looking at the comprehensiveness around the people, the actors, the interrelationships, the behaviors and the mindsets are the important ingredient that we need to pay attention to.